it's a relatively young industry in the United States. So there's not a lot of people with multiple years of experience in the industry. The federal government has been very supportive. You never know. Hopefully we get that some support from the federal level. It's a new challenge, right? It's a new challenge. Energy transition, renewable energy, right? So that's exciting for me.
The construction industry has long been a fertile ground for cultivating diverse skills, from project management and structural engineering to logistics and problem solving. As the world shifts towards sustainable energy solutions, these skills are finding new relevance in the growing field of renewable energy. Individuals from a wide range of backgrounds are finding their skills can meet the high demand for an increasing workforce in renewables. This is EngineeringPro, and today we're talking to Sam Dogini, a construction lead for Offshore Wind in the United States. We'll talk about his background, how he got into the industry, and his experiences of transitioning into renewables from his previous work in capital projects. Sam shares his insights and advice into the industry and how candidates can refocus their skills and experience in an industry full of opportunity. Hi Sam, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today to talk about your experience in the renewable industry. So first of all, just for our listeners and our viewers, could you explain what your current job title is and how long you've been in this role?
Yeah, so currently I'm a construction lead, Offshore Wind, and I've been in this role for about 6 months now.
Okay, fantastic. And how did you get into the renewables industry? What was the kind of path for you getting into the industry?
So I would say it was all happenstance, right? I was involved in a capital project for the past almost 9 years. And then I got a contact from NES about a potential opportunity, and it looked promising. Energy transition is happening all over the world, right? So I figured, why not give it a try? And 6 months down, I'm liking it so far.
Oh, cool. So what did you do before you got into renewables? What was the kind of skill set that brought you this way?
So I studied construction management in college, right? I've always been passionate about construction projects, seeing stuff go from concept to completion, right? So prior to this, I was involved in heavy civil underground rail infrastructure. At one point in time, it was the largest transportation project in the United States. So I did that for close to 9 years, and the project is completed. It's in use, servicing over 150,000 people daily. So that was a sustainable project for me, right? Mass transits. And then that was a perfect segue when this came along to provide, reusable energy to over 1 million New Yorkers. So I figured, why not,
Yeah, it's fantastic. We talk a little bit, we've already talked a little bit there about why you made the switch to your current role. Did you kind of stay in the same area? Or have you had to move? Did you have relocation or anything to do?
So I haven't had to move my residence, right? But it's still in New York City, but it's a little bit of a farther commute for me from my previous commute, my previous role. But it's been all right. It's been good. Not the greatest. It took me about an hour and a half to get to where I need to be.
That New York traffic.
Yeah, that and using the subway, right? So.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So could you talk us through, just for people who might be interested in getting into the industry and don't really know what it's like, and what the day-to-day is like. Can you explain a little bit more about a typical day in your role? What are the kind of main tasks that come up from the time you walk in to the time you leave?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying it's a relatively young industry in the United States, definitely. So there's not a lot of people with multiple years of experience in the industry, right? So one thing I would say for people trying to join into the industry, it's a lot of regulations. It's a lot of oversight from federal level, state level, local government level. Also, being in New York City, everything is multiplied times 10 in New York, right? So that's one thing to note. But day to day right now, being that the project hasn't officially, it's been going on for the past 5-6 years, right? Again, this is more of the permitting and getting all the compliance requirement in place, right? It's going on for the past 7 years, but actual construction hasn't started yet. So right now, mostly involved with a lot of meetings with all the stakeholders that's involved. Right, we have the engineers of record, the contractor who's going to do the work, and we have our own internal meetings to set up processes and systems in place on how the work is going to be executed. Right, so there's some travel involved. Like I'm between Manhattan and Brooklyn a couple times a week. Right, um, the engineer of record has an office in Manhattan, so the contractor. Sometimes I travel in the East Coast area, go to all the wind ports, right, to get kind of lessons learned, see how that's going over there. Recently, I was in Virginia um, 2 weeks ago to visit a wind port. Late last year, I went to New Jersey to visit the New Jersey wind port. And so that's kind of what my day to day has been. It's been a little different. I would say a lot of meetings initially, but looking forward to actual construction and hopefully less meetings. But yeah, just set up the framework to manage the job.
Yeah, so I suppose the one of the things that you enjoy about the job really is maybe the people the people facing element.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a big work from home person, so I definitely like to interact and make sure things are getting done.
So just thinking a bit more about that then, what are the best parts of the job for you? What's the kind of unique or exciting bits that you really enjoy about the role you're in now?
But so it's a new challenge, right? It's a new challenge, energy transition, renewable energy, right? So that's exciting for me, kind of understanding everything that goes into place to get power from the winds in the ocean, right? That's a lot that goes into place that you don't really know, right? The end users care about green energy at the end of the day, but there's a massive undertaking that has to happen with stakeholders all over the world, right? I get to collaborate with people across three continents, right? I have colleagues in Asia, colleagues in Europe, suppliers all over the world. So that's one of the one of the best things I would say about the job.
And then I suppose on the flip side, what have you found in terms of the challenges with the role? Have you had to learn new skills, or have there been other things that you've had to kind of that have been a realization for you that you might not necessarily have realized coming in?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say one of the biggest things is the number of agencies, oversight agencies involved, and permits required. It's a massive number of permits and agencies, right? You have to deal with the federal government, the Bureau of Ocean Management, New York State Energy Research and Development Agency, New York City Economic Development Commission, the Fire Department, the DEP, DOB. Is like just a massive host of agencies you have to deal with. That's new for me, and that's something I have to kind of learn to walk around that. Outside of that, as far as new skills, the offshore wind industry is a little bit different from traditional construction, right? A lot of the big players have history in oil and gas, so some of the processes and workflows are a little different. So I'm gonna have to learn that part of management as far as dealing with vendors, subcontractors, and suppliers.
No, fantastic. So it has been a new opportunity to kind of grow your career, I suppose, and there's a lot of scope to grow that. So with that in mind, how do you see your with where you are now? What are your next plans for your career? How do you see your career growing and diversifying over the next few years based on where you are now?
Well, coming from where I was before now, capital projects, underground rail infrastructure, now to offshore wind. The one common theme is construction, right? I like construction. I like mega construction, making an impact, right? Sustainable construction. So I see myself continuing in that phase, whether it be offshore wind, whether it be other energy transition projects, solar, battery storage, hydrogen, right? So that's I see myself continuing growing in that space, developing mega projects to support the sustainable goals that New York City has set, not only New York City, but the entire world. That's hopefully I can play a big role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And with things like the Inflation Reduction Act currently enforce a lot of investment in the United States in renewable energy and the sort of grants and stuff, I imagine there's a lot of scope for you in terms of new projects that are currently in planning phases as well. So once you've gained the experience and developed this project, there's scope to use that pretty much all over the country.
Yeah, definitely. That's the goal. The federal government has been very supportive, like you mentioned, the Inflation Reduction Act. Hopefully, whatever the next administration is, right? Hopefully, it's the same administration, but you never know. Hopefully, we get that same support from the federal level.
So just to kind of focus in a little bit on working with NES Fircroft and your time with us, just from your own perspective, how have you found working with NES Fircroft maybe compared to other agencies? What has that kind of relationship done for you specifically that you find is unique or important to you?
It's definitely been great. I would say working with NES. Prior to this, I have not worked with any staffing agencies, right? So it was a little new to me. So that was a little learning curve that I had to go through. But outside of that, it's been great. You know, I had great relationship with the recruiters, right? They were very transparent with me. Whenever I had issues, I've gone to them and they've pretty much done the best. They've gone far above and beyond.
Thank you. That's great to hear, and it's good for potential candidates who are looking for roles and are seeing roles through a lot of the work that we do with NES Fircroft with people like yourself in terms of being able to support you and keep you running and keep you going. So thank you for that feedback. So finally, then, the last question I have on my list today is for prospective candidates. It might be young people in college now, or it might be people who are working in other industries and are thinking of making the transition. What advice would you give someone entering the renewables industry if they were entering today?
Well, I would say just go for it, right? It's a young industry in the United States. It needs a lot of people with the goals that have been set forth by the government to achieve renewable energy. There's potential for a great career, right? A long-term career in developing offshore wind in the United States. So I would say it's very promising. It's challenging, but if you are ready for the challenge, just go for it. I think it's very rewarding as well.
That's great. Thank you. Really great insights today. Okay, Sam, thank you very much for joining us on our podcast today. It's been great speaking to you.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been excellent. I'm looking forward to potentially more podcasts with NES.
This has been EngineeringPro, a podcast brought to you by NES Fircroft. If you've enjoyed this podcast and would like to learn more about the opportunities in the renewable energy field, visit our website at www.nesfircroft.com. You can also find more of our podcasts with industry professionals speaking on their experience in their industries and their advice on finding exciting new careers by following us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Spotify. Thanks for watching and listening.